Cormac McCarthy, are you okay? Because why are you writing this down? Hi, I'm Savar. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be tier ranking high school required reading. I don't have that many books here. I have like 9 or 8. I don't know what's going on if I just didn't read a lot of required books in high school, but I don't know. Every high school it's different depending where you are. I'm in Canada, so these are the books I read in advanced English. I really had fun watching other people do it, but everyone on YouTube has like so many books, and I'm like, how many books did you guys have to read in high school? So as you can see on my screen, I'm gonna zoom out. I have 9 books. I'm gonna work my way backwards. This is how I tier rank these. So to start, the highest of the highest, the best of the best, we have Devoured. Okay, this book, Devoured. I loved it. Great. Very high up there. Next, underneath that, we have 8. Yeah, the book 8, like it was eating, it ate. Okay, the book 8. You know, self-explanatory. Beneath that, we have A Little Bite. The book was good, but it was just a little bite. You know, like it kept me there. Kept me, you know, sitting at the plate, just taking little bites. And then beneath that, we have Crumbs. Like it was giving crumbs. There wasn't really anything extravagant about this book. It's pretty bad. Okay, the book was pretty bad. It was giving crumbs. Okay, and then the very bottom is nothing because it gave nothing. Simple as that. It did not eat. There wasn't a little bite. There wasn't even crumbs. It was so bad. It was so bad the plate is empty. Okay, so let's get into tier ranking them. I'm gonna start from the top. So Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet. A lot of people just love classical books, which I totally get. Me, Romeo and Juliet was the best one of the 2 Shakespeare books I've ever read. Romeo and Juliet was definitely the better one. It's obviously like the most famous story, like one of the most famous stories ever to exist. So it has to be interesting, but how interesting really was it? I don't know, because for me it's about how much I care about like the characters or the plot or the setting, you know, that can really matter to me. So for Romeo and Juliet, like, did I understand why they loved each other? Like, was it an elaborate story? No, it was a play, right? So do I know why they loved each other? There wasn't enough time in this book to make you feel so connected to the characters, but you do really feel bad at the ending, because I didn't know what happened at the end of Romeo and Juliet before I read it. So I think like for the ending, I'll give it 8. Like it's between A Little Bite and 8. Like it was good. You know, I wanted more. Like I wish I had more plot, more story, but it's a play. So I feel like that's just something I can't be mad at, you know? So at 8. The yellow wallpaper. I don't know if you can see this fully, but the yellow wallpaper. I made an illustration for this for my class because my teacher asked us to do like a little drawing of it. And this was my drawing. I'll put it on the screen here. And my teacher gave me like a B or a B minus, I think, or maybe a C plus. I was like, dude, like I worked my ass off to do this perfect drawing of it, like, and you're giving me that? Like please, I tried so hard. Those are one of the times I tried so hard for something and I just didn't get a good grade, which is a lot of the time. But the story was interesting. I learned about history reading that book, because you learn that like the woman in this book, she is kind of going crazy in this room, and she's seeing, like, she's hallucinating, she's seeing things in her walls in her yellow wallpaper, because she's cooped up in this room, I think because her husband like thought she was sick or something. So she's stuck in this room and it's just making her symptoms worse. And then when she goes to get help about it, because her husband's like a doctor, he's like, you have hysteria, girl. Like, you're just crazy. You're a little woman. You just have hysteria. Which, a very important story to tell, because women just were labeled hysterical and had hysteria. This random disease that doesn't exist. There's no such thing as fucking hysteria. So you really just, you feel bad for her. And it's also like there's nothing you can do at this time. Like she's just like doomed to like suffer in these walls and think that she needs rest and needs rest, and he's telling her she needs more rest. She's going crazy. I wanted to see her go feral. She needed to, what did she do at the, I don't know if she went crazy at the end of the book. Okay, I forgot to add one more, which is Lamb to the Slaughter, but we'll get to that in a second. So Yellow Wallpaper, I think it was a really good book, and I'm gonna say it 8. You know, I really enjoyed Yellow Wallpaper. It made me learn something, which is a good thing. So next, Lamb to the Slaughter. At first I'm like, I forgot I read this, but how could I forget I read this, because it was so good. It's practically about this woman on the trend of crazy women. So Lamb to the Slaughter is practically like the girl who kills her husband with a leg of lamb or something like that. I didn't know she killed him with that. I feel like in the version I read it was something else. Actually no, it couldn't have been. And then she feeds it to the police when they come to question her, so her murder weapon is gone. And I don't know why that broke my brain as like a 15-year-old. I was like, no, she didn't, she got away with murder. Like, I don't know. So for its little twist, it was good. It was good. It was just, these are just like kind of stories with a twist. So I feel like I can't rank this that high, but it did eat. You know what? I'm gonna put Yellow Wallpaper into a little bite. Because I realized I like Lamb to the Slaughter more than Yellow Wallpaper. I don't know. I think Lamb to the Slaughter was more interesting than the Yellow Wallpaper, because Yellow Wallpaper could get dragged on a little bit, so I'm gonna put in a little bite. But it's high up there in a little bite, you know? The Crucible. The Crucible 8. The Crucible 8. If you don't know, which I don't know how you don't know, The Crucible is a story about the Salem witch trials and just like these people that existed and their story essentially, but they're going off like records and stuff. I don't think there was like actual like in-depth records about these people and what they went through in the Salem witch trials, but the story was so compelling that whoever wrote it, I don't know who wrote it, they made it very compelling. And it was, the only annoying thing is like you know how everyone's fate is going to be. It's like, oh, they're a witch, oh, they're a witch, oh, they're a witch, they're getting burned. But then there was a guy character, I think, that got accused of being a witch, and there's just like this mix up with like if the priest believed that a man could be a witch and da-da-da-da-da, and it got pretty interesting. And I think that's what made the story interesting that I remember. So I'm gonna put that in devoured. The Crucible, like, it took an occurrence that happened in history that we don't know maybe a lot about into like crazy depth, I don't know, and they made it just an interesting story, and I think that's really cool. So The Crucible, it devoured. It's solid, good story. The Chrysalids, as you can tell, the Chrysalids, I fucking love the Chrysalids. It just reminded me of like X-Men, obviously, because it's these kids that have this like mutant ability, which I wonder if what came first, but I don't know if it was X-Men or the Chrysalids first. Probably X-Men maybe, but they're practically these kids that are mutants, and they have these powers. I don't remember like in depth of everything, but I knew like the little sister had like a very unique power, and I really like the end of the book because it gets a little fantasy sci-fi where they go to this place, I forgot what it's called, where there's other people like them and you learn if the other people like them, and like I think they're getting hunted down, and I don't know, the kids are so young in this to be going through what they went through, but they're smart, and I love the Chrysalids. It held my attention. I was so excited every time we went into class and we read more of it. Like, it's a great story. Yeah, I love that story. I think that's just so solid. Like, I think it's a read I'd recommend to people. The Lottery. The Lottery. I'm not even gonna front with you. The Lottery is so good. Reading The Lottery with no idea whatsoever you're about to read is like the best way to go into it. A lot of these stories, you know, these short stories are just short stories with like a crazy twist at the end that makes it really interesting. And The Lottery was the one that took me the most by surprise, like the most. And I love the way it builds tension and how you're uncovering the world through this tension, through this little story. It's just so well done. And I think everyone should go read The Lottery. It's so interesting. I think about The Lottery often, okay? It's like my Roman Empire. Great book. King Lear. Do I remember shit from King Lear? I don't know if it's because I had to read this in COVID times, and everything I read in COVID times I didn't like. I wish we just had a good book during COVID times. That's what I needed, you know, but I wasn't reading as much. King Lear, which is Shakespeare's other play, one of his other plays, is about this king that has a bunch of daughters, and it's practically like, it reminded me of like the prodigal son, like that story in the Bible, the prodigal son, and it's like a retelling of that from a king, and then like the daughters, like one of the daughters taking over the kingdom, and I think she was like mean and like, I don't know. I'm like, it just, to me, it's just like, if I wanted a story like that, I'll just go read The Prodigal Son. Like, it's giving me the same thing, except it's just like kings and queens, and yeah, like, I don't know. Maybe the politics between the daughters was interesting a little bit, but I was just bored, and I just didn't care about the characters. I didn't care. I think I cared for maybe one character, one of the daughters. I feel like there was one really nice daughter. I don't remember. The king, the main character, I didn't care about him. I really did not like King Lear, and I'm like, I wish we read like Macbeth or something. I don't even know what happens in Macbeth, but I feel like it's better than King Lear. But my English teacher like insisted on King Lear because she thought it was way better. Babe, we could have just read The Prodigal Son. It would have been the same story. Okay. The Great Gatsby. Now, I know a lot of you are gonna get mad, okay? I know a lot of people are gonna get mad. I hate The Great Gatsby, okay? Or maybe I'll just say strongly dislike. There's only one redeeming quality about it that's never expanded upon. The thing for me about The Great Gatsby, it's not my type of book. That's the only thing, okay? Ish. I don't care about what like rich white people are doing in the 1920s. That's just not for me. I don't really, unless the story's like really compelling, sure, but I don't really care, you know. It's like, oh, it's supposed to be like, it's like cool, the roaring 20s, and you're seeing what's happening, and I'm like, I'm just thinking about my people in that time. I'm sorry, I'm thinking about my people. And just, it didn't give me enough of like, oh, look how different these rich people are to, you know, what's going on in the world and other ongoings. Like, a book doesn't have to give that, right? It doesn't have to. I think it would have been more interesting to come at it from that lens. That being said, I don't like the narrator, Nick Carraway or whatever his name is, Carraway. I don't like the narrator, and I didn't care about old money and new money. I don't care. I don't have no money, actually. But I don't care about old money and new money because living in this economy, thinking about people that had so much wealth, I don't care whether you got your wealth from legal, illegal means. I don't care about your wealth. And the characters were so insufferable, including Gatsby, okay, including him. The only character I liked a little bit was Jordan. I think her name is Jordan, which was like the athlete girl that the main character was into, or the narrator was into. Narrator, didn't like him. Like, his perspective wasn't interesting. He's probably a very neutral sense of the narrator, I think, and that was the one redeeming thing about him. Other than that, I don't care about him. Daisy, like, I know her, like, what her story is conveying. Like, the book does a good job of telling the stories of the character. You understand what their personality is, but I just didn't care about it because the story revolved around those two characters, Daisy and Gatsby, and I just couldn't bring myself to, like, I don't know, they felt like real people. Like, they felt like they could be real people. Daisy has this whole thing about being a mother and how she's not great of a mother to her daughter, and then she's in this relationship with this guy who sucks, which is the other character I was going to get to. He sucks. He's like I think he's like racist and typical 1920s rich man, I would assume. And she was just so, I don't know if she was like permissive in my brain. I didn't like her character. I liked the friend Jordan. She was interesting a little bit more because she was different in a way. I don't know. But then again, she didn't give all that much, you know. Daisy, sure, whatever. And she was kind of like a spoiled brat in a way, but like, yeah. And then Gatsby was just like, I guess he's like hopelessly romantic with Daisy, but I don't know why. Like, what was his infatuation with her? Like, what was the reason for that infatuation? You know, what was the reason for that infatuation? I couldn't tell you. Maybe I don't remember the book that well, but I remember like hate reading it because I had to like write long summaries about it every single like chapter. Gatsby just gave like a hopeless romantic guy. Those problems, I guess, were like problems at the time, like the way he made his money and people judging him. But like, I'm like, I just really didn't care about it. Like, am I supposed to feel bad that like he's new money, but he had to hide it like he's old money because new money people get? Like, am I supposed to care about that? I don't know. Okay, but the only redeeming thing about The Great Gatsby was that little scene that we got where like practically it makes a little subtle hint that like the narrator might be gay maybe, or like into guys, and like it's kind of a little telling with his type being Jordan and how like he describes her. And I'm like, I wish that was explored more. That would have been such an interesting story. And I think if that was touched upon and not just like a little element like, hey, he might be gay, we don't know, like that, give me something interesting. The Great Gatsby just left me with nothing. I didn't even feel crumbs for that. Like, it was just nothing. The Road. Cormac McCarthy, are you okay? I just want to ask you if you're okay, because what you be writing about, I'm worried about your well-being. Because why are you writing this? This guy wrote Blood Rain, this guy wrote The Road, and this guy wrote No Country for Old Men. Are you okay? Like, does anyone know if this man is sane? The most depressing writer award goes to Cormac McCarthy. Thank you. Not to say that he doesn't write interesting stories. They're obviously like famous for a reason. They're not for me. I know about Blood Meridian. I didn't read it. I'm not reading that. Not for me. I watched the movie No Country for Old Men. Probably one of the movies I actually hate. And I don't really judge movies that harshly, but that movie, I genuinely hated that fucking movie. That's a story for another day. But The Road is the most depressing book I've ever read in my life. And I'm gonna tell you, it could have been the setting. Nah, it wasn't even, it's depressing. But my teacher was even like, I know guys, like, I'm sorry I'm kind of giving you this type of book during, you know, the pandemic. And it's about the world ending because of like nuclear war. I'm like, babe, we're going through like universal pandemic, like this scary thing happening, and you're making us read a book about how the world ended in nuclear war. So sorry, but like, why do, like, she made us read that in King Lear and The Great Gatsby. Anyway, it's this book about this man, the man and his son. They don't even have names. It's just the man and the son, the man and the kid. And they're just navigating this world. It's practically like Last of Us style, but The Last of Us is so interesting and this is not interesting. Navigating the world. And practically they just run into a bunch of cannibals. And they just run into horrible, sad situations. Cannibalism, that sort of thing. Death, sadness, bleakness. The entire movie, there's a movie for it. It's all in black and white. It's just sad stuff. And like, I am an escapist reader, as I say, and I don't read books to be rooted in this world or in a bleaker world than this. I'm not even going to read The Hunger Games. I'm just not that type of reader, and that's why this book didn't work for me. It did more than not work. It literally left me depressed and sad. Like, I was literally just sad by the end of that book. That's all I gotta say about The Road. If you like depressing, sad books, like, they're like, to speak to like their character development and stuff like that, their dynamic, maybe it was a little bit interesting, father and son, but literally just go watch The Last of Us. You're getting a more you're getting the same apocalyptic man and kid dynamic, like, more in a more interesting way. The Road just didn't really do much for me. Okay, lastly, The Age of Miracles. The Age of Miracles is a book I chose to read from a list of books in school because we had to read a coming of age book. So I picked this one out of the list they gave. And you know what? Reading this book was like, it was a journey. This book had the biggest missed opportunity of having the coolest title. And it chose The Age of Miracles when it should have been called The Slowing. Because what happens in the book is this thing called the slowing. Why don't you just call it that? Because if I'm not going to read a book, The Age of Miracles, if it said The Slowing, I'm like, what do you mean the slowing? What's slowing down? What is the slowing? You know? But anyway, the slowing is practically this phenomenon that happens in this world, which is like Earth, you know? And time just starts slowly slowing down. Like, the days are getting longer, more dragged out, more nighttime, more daytime. And then there's people that accommodate to that time, and there's people that live the exact like normal lives as we do now from that time, and like how people adjust, what happens to the animals in the ocean or the animals on land, what happens to crops, what happens to farming, what happens to the world. You know, it's mentioned and it's talked about in that book. It is more about the main character and her family and the people around her, and really just like her neighborhood and what's going on there. When I was reading this book, I always was listening to Brooklyn Baby by Lana Del Rey. So I just like connect this book to Brooklyn Baby. And the end of the book just left me that was the one takeaway from The Age of Miracles, is the end of the book just gave me nothing. Like, the author at the end of the book even did like a Q&A at the back of the book, and people are like, the ending, hello? And she's like, yeah, it's supposed to be like that. And I'm like, girl, like, I guess I want a fleshed out world in a sci-fi way where like, I want to know why the slowing's happening, when it's happening, what is it doing, how do we stop this, scientific explanation. You know, you're not going to get that from this book, okay? It's supposed to be more about the characters and how and what goes through. And I think her like parents go through a divorce. Actually, I don't know, something happens, and it's more about the character's life under these odd particular circumstances. But the element of it, like, I like a book with high detail about if some sort of thing is going on in the world. But there's a special place in my heart with this book. The end didn't do it for me, and I don't think it was all that interesting in hindsight. Like, I really had to force myself to read it. But there's like I think I associate this book with like good times, so I'm gonna put it in a little bite. You know, it was good. And that's my tier ranking. I think I'd leave it like that. And I feel like some people are gonna be so mad with me. But yeah, that's my tier ranking of the books. High school required reading is something interesting, and I learned that I like reading. I just need to read something interesting. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!